So we're
All
there.
right.
It says here we're on, right?
All right. Cool.
Let's go to this, and I'm going to publish this guy and see what
All
it
right.
does.
Cool. Yeah. Letting this go ahead and get tuned up for everybody. Make sure it's live everywhere, and then we will go ahead and get started with some
Looks like
goodness.
a deal. Oh yeah, you're there.
Is it live everywhere? If anybody wants to jump into the comments and let us know that it's live, that would be super cool. Yep, I can see you live on Facebook. I'm gonna go to YouTube's, see if it's live there. You said you got YouTube.
Yeah, I'm up.
Cool.
Everything looks like it's pretty good.
All
Double
right,
check
I'm just
me and
seeing me. So let me see if I can make it so that way I can see both of us.
oh, it's probably been started.
I mean, I am beautiful, but I did invite you in here, so probably should have both of us in here. There we go.
Says
I
this
got
is
you the
ongoing.
small screen now.
There we go. I should
There
be
we go.
good, man.
All right, cool. Welcome. We got Frank from Sniper's High, Chris from CR2. There's no official podcast name here. Well, I guess we could go the Everyday Sniper. I'm sure you're going to list it over there. Um,
Yeah, I'm every day in it. Sure.
yeah, sure, whatever. Cool. So,
We're
hey
kind of
guys,
like the
welcome.
everyday sniper guys.
We'll call this the Everyday-ish Sniper podcast. Not
Yeah.
really remix.
There you go. The
All right,
reboot.
the reboot. No, man, it's been a while, so I figured, you know what? Let's get together. Let's have a chat. Let's see what's been going on with both of us because I know you've had a ton of stuff. Were you just out in Virginia?
Yes, I went and did Course of Fire for Major Land.
Oh, okay.
But I did two things. So we were traveling around in that SHOT Show
Mm-hmm.
on Sunday.
Yeah.
I met a second time. It's not the first time, but I
Right. Right.
ran into Ward Burton, and
Ward Burton.
he's a NASCAR driver.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
His son drives now Jeb for Golden Corral 27 Xfinity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Ward was Roush guy and all that. Anyway, he has a conservation fund, and
Mm-hmm.
he sponsored him and his son by Beretta.
Okay.
So they were at SHOT Show, and I ran into him last year, and then I ran into him again this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had a veterans event for his conservation group there that he does wildlife conservation. If you go on X or your Facebook, Ward has a lot of videos pulling critters out of the ground everywhere on his property in
Yeah.
Virginia. And so we went down there for his veterans event, and he's only an hour from Gladstone.
Okay.
So what I did is I got a hold of Sam because I was going to help with Course of Fire and all that. And what we did is we flew into Virginia. We went and did the Ward Burton Wildlife Conservation event, and it was cool because they did skeet shooting, pistol shooting, bow shooting, fishing. They had like little events, and they had teams.
Yeah.
But then the next day, I went to Major Lands and
Mm-hmm.
met with Sam.
Yeah.
And so we went up on the mountain, and I helped with the Course of Fire. So we kind of cleaned up the stages a little bit, and then I moved targets. So, like, on the reverse side of the mountain where like my stage and Laura's stage was,
Mm-hmm.
and there's like like a line up the mountain on the where the targets are, and there's like 3 4 empty spaces that had all the targets in there that you had to shoot.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure do.
Okay, if you remember, multiple stages were shot in the same clearing. So you had to find which targets were yours and then engage them, but you could be shooting in a clearing and then somebody could be shooting in the same clearing as you. and it got a little confusing. So I cleaned that up. I simplified some of the stages, and then they went down deeper and they've cleared some brush. So there's a like a trail through the woods, short, but there, and it's almost NRL Hunter style. So we kind of mixed up the stages a little different, and then I made it so this stage shoots this stage shoots this, and there shouldn't be which target is mine. And about 6 to 8 shots per stage. And then I did progressive too. So a big target, like if it's an 800-yard plate, you might have a full size IPSC, and then you're going to have a 66, and it may even go down to a 45. So I put some smaller targets next to the bigger target, so that way the better guys can work a little harder, and not just shoot at a meatball target meant for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where we were, and that's where I've been.
Man, that sounds really cool. Yeah, I really like that match. Sam, was it Sam?
Yes, Sam. Well, there's Sam. There's Gary.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There was a
I was trying to remember Gary's name. So yeah, Sam actually just hit me up. I think it was last week, asking if we were gonna be back out there. Obviously, teach classes on the was it
yes,
Friday is check-in day and whatever else. So
yes. He had it so you guys were going to do your class, and then we'll do all that, and even I I mixed up the stage. I got rid of that run up the hill stage from the Pistol Bay all the way up because that was a bottleneck.
mhm.
And then I like I said, I kind of just mixed it up a bit. And then I did do one ELR stage, but I did the closest target, like 18 something, I think it is. So there'll
Yeah.
be like a bomb for the regular guys to shoot,
Mhm.
but
Okay.
yeah, I just basically it was the targets, so you didn't have to hunt for them.
Okay. Cool. Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
like that. I mean, it's a fun match. I like how you have everything from pistol stages that are just at a few yards all the way out to ELR kind of distances, and a lot of us on the East Coast, we get a lot of slack as well, we don't have wind, we don't have distance, we don't have whatever. But at Black Bear, that's one of those few places where we get all of those things. We get wind, we get distance, we
Yes.
have a little bit of terrain. I mean, we're not shooting angle fire necessarily, but we'll see AJ. We saw
Yes.
that the last couple of years where if the winds pick up, that you're definitely seeing a jump in your elevation, or a shift in your elevation and everything else because of how much wind is out there. So
And
it's a,
it
it's
gets under your bullet. There
yeah,
it's
yeah,
you know what I mean? You're shooting kind of out in the open, and then
mhm,
there's that valley, that kind of cross through,
yeah.
and it gets underneath you, and it's gonna raise you up if it's wrong. If it's going the wrong way, you're going up.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because until you send that first bullet, you almost just have to believe, like, rely on your solver, which a
Yes.
lot of guys have never really used their solvers that way because um, you can't see it. You
Yeah.
can't see it at all. And then most guys, once they see it, they don't believe it because they probably don't even know what it is. They're just like, well, why did I miss? My range was off, my dope was off, my whatever else was off. And it's like, well, no, I mean, you actually had a solid range to that target, and it is a pretty good sized target. So, it wasn't a matter of getting a bad range. It was a matter of, hey, man, that's AJ right there. And,
Yeah.
you need to take 3/10 off that, or whatever, because you have that lifting effect. So it's pretty cool. I really like that. I really like that facility. I'd like to teach out there. I just don't know how feasible for my clientele that is.
Yeah, they're open to it. You know
Mhm,
what I mean? They like us, and so they're definitely will let us do classes there. And then the
yeah.
one other thing that I did, there like the B&T stage with the ace of spades, and then they wanted to do like a true cold bore type of thing, which okay, I'm doing it Friday on paper. So there'll be like a distance cold bore on a shoot and see, and then you'll go from there and you'll do your B and T shot. And we're gonna do that like during the brief, right after the brief on Friday. And so we could just line up because we can shoot like 10 plus on a line, shoot 2 rounds, shoot 2 rounds, shoot 2 rounds, and do the relay that way, then send everybody off. I'm trying to make it so we're done quick. And so it'll be, sort of a 9 and 9 stages instead of 10 and 10. And, it's 10 and 10, but we'll do one Friday. And then it'll be 9 and 9. And I'm even like a couple stages that aren't long. I'm gonna drop the time down a little bit. So it won't be most time is gonna be 5 minutes and not 6. And then if I can get away with a 4, I'm gonna change a time to 1 or 2 stages that might be a couple quick shots to do a 4 minute for a team. But I'm taking a minute off of all of it right off the bat. So that should save time as far as that goes.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, because they were 6-minute stages. And so we're gonna have 5-minute stages. And I think I have 2 stages that are gonna be uh 4 minutes. So you know what I mean? Every minute's gonna help. And if I can move people a little different and if I can flow it a little better. And I told Sam, the rock star of this match, like you said, is Black Bear. It's the terrain. It's the wind. It's the direction changes you're gonna make. So you don't have to get hyper silly with the course of fire, because it's hard enough as it is. And so that's where I really tried to simplify. Go down there, pistol, rifle, you're done. Go over here, pistol, rifle, you're done. Go over here, rifle, rifle, you're done. And not do the warning orders and the crazy stage brief. Up, you muted or something.
I
Did you
think a
hit a
lot of
mute
that
button?
comes from, yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
wanting to have that sniper mindset. Um,
Yes.
and I get it because hey, this is a sniper match, and that's the community we're trying to draw in and everything. It's tough, man. And I don't know that that really translates well into the competition kind of format. It, there's always issues too. I've even had guys. I think we talked about this. Yeah, we did. We talked about this in a podcast. I think it was a couple years ago now, where guys were hitting us up about night sages and whether or not the actual like active duty snipers were going to have an advantage because of equipment and because of the way the
Right.
stages were set up. And so it's just let's just make it a fun match. Let's just make it a clean cut, no caveats, no it's just a match. It's based on skills, and
Yes. Yes. And,
I
and
think
and like you
that's
said, the
really
terrain
good.
and the location is enough.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, because it's tough. It's tough. The shooting itself is
Mhm.
tough. Especially when you get out to those ELR distances, man. Like people just don't shoot like that. They
Right,
just
and
don't.
like I said, I only did 1 stage, and I did it the closer one and where the big sand is, so
Hmm.
the odds of seeing a splash because 'cause you're dropping into it should be better,
Yeah.
and then I like I said, I personally saw the confusion when there was that clearing and there was 2 or 3 sets of stage targets in there, and you'd go to shoot and then you'd see or hear something and it was right there.
Yeah.
So I there's enough space that I was
Yeah.
able to say, "This stage, that's your clearing. This stage, that's your clearing." And the way the clearings were in the mountain is there's plenty of shadow.
Hmm.
I can
Sure.
throw a plate in the shadows. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
and then I told Sam if you had to do something to change it up, add a smaller plate and we'll do another shot on a smaller plate.
Right.
That would be like if you looked at a round count and it was 6 rounds and it didn't seem right. add a plate smaller, and we'll go one more round on a smaller plate, you know?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
I think
Totally.
somebody's commenting. There we go. Guest chat comments. All right. I was
Yeah.
looking at your chat. The chat was up. You had
Oh, okay. Yeah, David. David just came to my last class, but unfortunately, he had to dip out a little early because some family stuff. So David's a good dude. He's law enforcement up there in Tennessee. So good dude.
nice, nice.
Yeah.
You like
Cool,
Tennessee
man.
law enforcement.
Yeah, they're good dudes,
So,
man.
we
Patron
were
state of
you were
shooting,
gonna
right?
talk a
Something like that.
but yeah, yeah. You had a topic, right, that we wanted to jump onto? Although, what were you have you been up to? You guys got a light fighter course coming up, and I know you've been busy technology wise.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So yeah, before we even get into the topic, man, I got to do just a ton of stuff going on, just a ton of stuff. So just some updates for CR2. I know we've been pushing them out on the website, on the social medias, but for some of you guys that just, whatever. Maybe this is the type of media that hits you. So CR2supply.com, that is a slight change from it, that one's been in motion for a while. We switched over from the old e-commerce to a new e-commerce. Should be relatively seamless for most people, although of course there's hiccups whenever you change over. So guys, if you run into a hiccup there, just there's a contact thing on there. Reach out, let me know whatever the issue is. I'm usually reachable within just a few hours, if not a few minutes. I'll get on there, I'll fix it, and we'll move on with life. But we got the new e-commerce platform. It looks to be working a lot better than the last one. It's a lot more user friendly, especially for our type of market. Is ultimately what it comes down to. A lot of people don't realize there's a lot of different e-commerce platforms, and they serve different types of industry. And so we're on a e-commerce platform that's good for our type of industry. And so that's what we'll be going on from here on out. Problem is, we've been just stretched across so many different platforms, so many different websites for so long. We're finally streamlining all this, and I think it's going to be really good going forward. The next thing is our our landing page. We kind of had this weird thing where we had a landing page, and it was kind of like why, and that kind of came from the whole e-commerce thing. But we're making sense of it now. We are using our landing page as now the education platform. So we have our own education platform. Now it's not an echo chamber like some of the other education platforms out there. Not talking about Sniper Side, but we've seen some guys kind of build echo chambers and then try to draw everybody over there where they're going to put out their stuff and it's behind a paywall, and you can't. You have to go there to hear them talk about it, and nobody else can hear their secret sauce. And no, ours is actually pretty well open. I mean, yes, you have to pay for classes, of course, because of course that's how we make money. But it's open to anyone. There's no subscription base or anything like that. You can just go on there, pay for one class, and then it's yours for life. Um, and it's pretty cheap. And I would just want to make education accessible to people.
There you go.
So we got right now we got basic marksmanship on there, which is a little bit precision oriented, but we got a marksmanship course on there. We have a laser rangefinder employment course. Both those are really cool. With the laser rangefinder employment course, that's going to cover the basics behind what a laser is, what a laser rangefinder is, how to use them, best practices. It's really cool. We've included all those videos from when we were testing the laser rangefinders. It's just super cool stuff. You're going to get some targetry in there, how to zero those weapon modded laser rangefinders. And then same thing with our marksmanship course. You're actually going to see some of the targetry here in a minute. Uh, but we have targetry in there that you guys can print and take with you to the range, be able to zero your rifles. It's going to come with step-by-steps, not to mention there's videos, all that kind of stuff. It's mobile friendly, so you can take it to the range, set your phone up, and then follow the steps on your screen with your rifle set up. Follow the steps on your screen for zeroing your rifle with the target that you printed off. I think it's just going to be a really cool asset to people. And right now, you can buy both of those courses for like $100. So I think that's going to be pretty cool. We're going to be adding more. We have a drone employment course coming up on there. We're gonna have our night shooting course on there, and there's just gonna be a bunch more stuff on there as we get this thing more rolled out. So just keep an eye on that.
Boost your
That's
mic
gonna
a
be
little. Your guy's saying your mic's down a little. You sound all right on my end, but somebody's saying you're low.
all right. Let me just turn that up a little bit, and
Oh,
I'll
there you
move
go.
it a little bit closer. How about that?
There you go.
Um,
That's you.
all right, David. I see what you're talking about there. Okay. So, anyways, is that better, David?
Yeah. Yeah, you sound much better.
Okay. So if cut me off guard there. So that's at cr2ss.com, or you can just type in cr2shootingsolutions.com, and that's going to bring you to that stuff there. So education platform, retail platform, two different platforms, two different purposes. I think it's going to be really good for you guys going forward. The next thing, we're running a special right now. And I'll be honest with you, these things are selling like hotcakes. So get them while you still can, because I'm kind of running low on inventory. So we're running a special on the Garmin Zeros. And what's going to come with that special is the Garmin Zero. You're going to get the Annex Defense screen cover, and then the Annex Defense Zero rubber protective case. All right. So it's the case like what you see here. We're down to just the black covers, guys. So like this orange one that you see here is not even available anymore. Sorry, but you're going to get the Garmin Zero. You're going to get the Annex Defense rubber case. Like I said, only the black one is available anymore. And then you're going to get the Annex Defense screen protectors. What's cool about the screen protectors is they are tempered glass. It actually comes with 3 of them. So if you do shatter it, you're going to get 2 more in there. Basically screen protectors like what you'd have for your phone. That whole package is $549. So where the normal Garmin Zeros $599, I'm actually running a sale on them, $549, and you get all that stuff.
Oh,
So I think
nice.
it's a pretty good deal. Yeah, man. In the last 30 days, I've sold a bazillion of these things. So it's obvious that people think it's a good deal. So get it while you still can. I'm running low. Once I'm out of those accessories, that deal kind of goes away, because I don't know if I'll be able to get all those accessories anymore. So, we'll go from there. And what else are we going to? Oh yeah, dude. So Trace, I think you've shot some of the stuff. Trace Ammo,
Yes.
they sent me out some of their ammo. It's been a while in the works, partly because he moved from like California, I think it was, out to Florida.
Chris
Trace
is
Ammo.
working with him. Chris has been
Mm-hmm.
doing a lot. And then I'm going to test out. He just sent it, but our weather has been so crap. I have
Yeah.
308 from him to look at, and 223 or something. He sent
Yeah.
2 loads to us.
Yeah. So he sent me 6.5, 223, and 308. Only thing I've actually even been able to shoot yet is the 223, just because I've been so swamped. And that was the target that I posted. I was shooting that with that Daniel Defense AR with a 2 to 10, little 18-inch rifle with a 2 to 10 on it. Like I said, it was 77 grain match stuff. And you guys could go back and check out that target. It just posted over the last few days. There was not a group there that was over 1 minute. I think they're all right in the half to 3/4 minute with that ammo. I mean, it's freaking hammers. I
And
think my ES
right.
is at 30, SDs between like 11 and 12. So, I mean, dude, and that's a gas gun. Gas gun. Rack grade gas gun. I
And
think the only
he
thing I've
worked
changed
with,
is my
like,
trigger.
Serge and George. He does
Yeah.
comp loads for people he did in California. So he was,
Yeah.
like, almost, semi like a Copper Creek in a way,
Mm-hmm.
semi-custom hand loading for guys, their comp loads, and now he's kind of gearing up to the Trace ammo for factory offerings, and it's
Yeah.
really good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. It pretty quick. I mean, it's not in the Black Arc fast area, but
Mhm.
Black Arc, I mean, that's that steel high pressure casing, so it's kind of a different kind of load. So I wouldn't try to compare those. I know I sell the Black Arc, so a lot of people are going to try to conflate those two things. It's a little bit different, although they are both match 77 grainers. Little different.
Right.
But from a match standpoint, I mean, I was still in that 2,700 feet per second, which on a 77 grain is really good velocity. But really, really good numbers, really, really good accuracy. I was super impressed. So I think this 6.5 Creedmoor stuff and the 308 stuff is just going to hammer also. I'm really looking forward to it. I know
Yeah.
he used to load a bunch of burger stuff. It looks like I think maybe he said something about he's not loading as much burger stuff anymore, just because it was either super expensive or just hard to get a hold of. But I know he's loading a bunch of the Sierra stuff and a bunch of the Hornady stuff, which those
Yeah.
always those have always
But I
been really
mean,
low.
what we're doing is we're getting that lower SD
Hmm.
from a box. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
factory stuff has been a little wild lately,
it
and
has. It has.
and so this helps out a whole lot of,
Hmm.
you
And
know.
I'll pay a couple bucks in the premium just to get consistent numbers because, I mean, just like you, I don't really have the time to load.
Nah.
So, I mean, when I go shoot a match, also I'm not trying to win national championships personally. I go shoot matches every now and again for the fun of it to keep my skills up, go see the community, things like that. So, but I still want to not be held back by my equipment either. So,
Right, right.
getting those good numbers out of ammo is important to me. And yeah, a lot of the factory match ammo, I don't know why you even has match on the box anymore. So, um,
Yes.
I could ask my 7-year-old to loan me ammo, and I'd probably get about the same consistency.
Yeah, an SD at 28 to 30, it's like, "Who did this?"
Right? Yeah, I'm
Friggin'
getting
Blind
70
Steve.
ESs, right? And it's like,
Yes.
what is going on right now?
Yeah, Blind
So,
Steve did it.
there. Oh, that's a Friday load.
Yeah, yeah.
And then probably the last thing, dude, I posted about these. I got in the Leica GeoFid AB pluses. GeoFid Pro AB. Man, that name. The names on these things are getting ridiculous because we have so many generations of equipment now that the freaking names are ridiculous. Um, Let me just say that uh, I so I don't know if have you done anything with these yet?
No, I haven't touched the Leicas.
Okay, so I did the big Bino eval a couple years ago, and I was gonna get the vectors, because I knew, listening to all the stuff, seeing everything coming out, I was gonna get the vectors. And let me just say, the reason I didn't get the vectors is because I had a big old credit with B&H. Let's just start there. And
Yeah.
I went on B&H, and they didn't have the vectors. And so when you got this big of a credit, you're
Right,
going to use
right.
it. And so I saw that they had the Leicas, and so I got the Leicas. That's why I got the Leicas, not the Vectors. Vectronics, whatever we're calling them.
But to be honest with you, the Vectors and the Leicas kinda come from the same place.
Right, right. So I got them just in time to go do my mountain rifleman course in Colorado at the end of March. So I came out there, missed you because you were like, "Oh, Chris is coming into town. Fuck that guy. I'm leaving."
I'm out.
And yeah, I'm gonna go watch NASCAR.
I
And
did.
um, I mean, I got them and I'm immediately blown away. But to be honest, I mean, Leica glass is amazing. That's what Leica's known for. Rangefinder, it just seemed to it seemed to perform like every Leica GeoVid rangefinder. I mean, we were pinging at 2,000 plus yards, which is what we expected. We did we got realistic targets. Now, anybody who's seen my evals, read anything that I've done, I
What's
don't.
their
What's that?
I was gonna say, what's their advertised range on that? Like,
3,200.
like, oh, okay, that's why
3,200.
I was
Yeah.
'cause, like, the Vectors and stuff will say you can go really far. I was
Yeah.
so and they'll probably those'll do all of 3,200, I'm sure.
Yeah, these say 3,200, and that's on a standard target, and that's my thing is I don't range rocks, I don't range houses and stuff like that, and be like, oh well, I ranged 5,000 yards, and it's like, well, yeah, but you ranged a freaking house, like you're not shooting houses, so what good is it to range a house? That's not me. I ranged targets because I'm shooting targets, and so we ranged targets at 2,000 yards, and then engaged those targets. So that's how I knew the ranges I was getting was good. And anybody who's got a pair of Leicas, at least from my experience, you've got a segmented circle. It's the gap at the bottom of your segmented circle. That's where I put it on my targets every time. It gives me a range. And now I will say you have a thing called beam dispersion. If you tab a target at a long distance, you put your beam right on that target, there's a good chance you're going to range everything behind it. So I personally You can get this in my laser rangefinder course, so go take it. But I'll range the post. Where the post comes into the ground, that's where Chris is going to range a target. So we're ranging targets at 2,000 yards with these things. So I'm very, very impressed with them. Glass is amazing. Now here comes my shit talking. Are you ready? We had a student out there with the vectors. And so there was one point in time, Chris was on my Leicas. My student had his vectors set up. So I walked over to the vectors to look through them because I needed to look at the target. And I'm looking through them. I was like, oh, these look pretty good. And Chris actually got off my Leicas. I walked back over to my Leicas at some point and I was like, oh shit. I was like, dude, tell me if it's just me. Look through the vectors, look through the Leicas. He did it and he's like, I don't want to look through those vectors anymore. And I was like, right? And I thought it's like HD versus UHD. Noticeably different. HD versus UHD. The glass on the Leicas, hands down better than the vectors. Now the vectors may have a better laser. I can't say. We did no
Yeah, I
comparisons. We
think
did no
that's where a little
testing.
bit of the compromise went, and I'm sure Leica didn't wanna bleed their own product by having it identical, you
Yeah.
know, and because aren't the Leicas a little bit more money than the Vectors? The Vectors are 28.
Yeah. The Leicas are definitely more expensive. They're definitely well into the threes for sure.
Okay, so and
For
that's
sure.
probably where the glass difference is coming from,
Yeah.
and so I could see that for sure,
hmm Yeah,
you
I
know?
would say, and this might hurt a lot of people's feelings, and I know people have confirmation bias for what they bought. People might say that's where this is coming from for me. Okay. When we do get a time to get an evaluation, we're gonna stack all these things up, and I'll post pictures so you guys can see this. I think that the vectors, glass wise, are on par with the new SIG 10Ks. The
Okay.
new SIG 10Ks, not the old ones, the new ones. The new SIG 10Ks are a phenomenal set of laser rangefinding binos. Phenomenal. They're still not going to look like you're looking through a set of freaking Leicas. Now, that being said, if you guys have the version of GeoVid Pros before this that do have AB on there, they don't have the AB Plus. The AB Plus is just like all the WES features and stuff like that, where you get the hit probability and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's I think it's the same glass. I don't think they changed anything on glass. I could be wrong. I don't work at Leica. They did not tell me anything. I'm not a insider that way. We put the old Leica gens before this and these up next to each other. They looked identical. So I don't think you need to go sell your Leica GeoVid Pro, the black ones that were out before these, to get these because they have that much better glass. I don't think there's a difference there.
Got it.
Now, if you want the added features, then that's on you. But there is a price delta, and the glass I think is the same. So it's just a software thing. Now here's the next thing, and I really don't understand this. I wanted the vectors because I wanted a reticle. And I have been harping on this for the longest time. And since a lot of people know I am a consultant for Loopold, I've been pushing Loopold hard on this one. Give me a mill reticle in a rangefinding bino. I know why people don't want to do it, but do it. The reason being is because customers want their laser rangefinder to align with their milling reticle, and that is
Yeah.
something that is not going to happen.
Well, and
It's not
reference
going.
points too, because like it with the NRL Hunter and stuff, it would be nice to throw a laser up and go, okay, I'm this far from, if you're using it that way,
Right,
from placard or from
right.
this reference point,
And the,
you
the
know.
problem is that you're not where the laser rangefinder goes out, where it comes back into, where your etched reticle are. It's not the same thing. It's not the same place, and so
Yeah.
there's a difference there, and that's why you won't have an etched reticle and your laser in the same place, and so a lot of manufacturers won't do it because customers they're going to be upset. And so like I've talked to the manufacturers about this, and that's a big reason why they won't do it. Now Vectronics, they gave us an etched reticle. It's not where the laser is. They identified that right off the bat. I think they put that reticle in a fucking terrible spot. I was
It's a little off.
I was blown away because I was like, I'm like shifting my head over to look sideways through the. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's so far out of the field of view. It just didn't make any sense to me. Like I had no idea where that reticle was because
'Cause they
I
want
had
the dual. Because don't
yeah
forget what it is, it's set up for the dual if you put the doublers on, so there's
yeah
space for 2,
mm-hmm
one at
mm-hmm
one magnification and one at the other. So, yes, it throws it a little low into the side
yeah.
versus being squared up on where you're
I
gonna
found it to be almost unusable.
yeah, I can see where you are with that.
Like I felt like I was trying to induce parallax into my system so I could use a reticle. And it was so much to the point where I just said, I'm not going to use the etched reticle because it's so awkward to use. And that for me made it so that way it was a useless feature, which was the whole reason I wanted those binos.
Right.
And so from that standpoint, I was like, I'm glad I was forced into getting what I got. So I don't know. That's my soapbox. You can agree or disagree. Obviously, we're all gonna have confirmation bias for what we bought, but I will tell you the only reason I bought these is because I had a huge ass credit with B&H. Because honestly, if Chris is spending Chris's money with no restrictions, I'm probably just gonna buy the Sigs because let's be honest, they freaking work. Just hands
Yeah,
down, they
they do the
work,
same.
and they're
And
way cheaper.
yeah, yeah.
And honestly, this is a little thing that a lot of people don't know. If you have to spend money to buy laser range finding binos, you need to buy the SIG 6Ks. The SIG 6Ks have an absolutely phenomenal laser rangefinder. The glass is really good. You don't get all the AB features, but if you're willing to link your binos to your Garmin watch or your Kestrel, you get all the applied ballistic features and you save yourself almost $1,000. Or actually, I think it might even be more than $1,000. So
Wow,
since we
crazy.
already have Kestrels, since we probably are already walking around with Garmin watches or the 901, save yourself the money. I'm just gonna tell you now, guys. It like if you can't afford these, you can't afford the Sig 10Ks, you can't afford the vectors, then buy the Sig 6Ks and you're gonna be very happy. I've turned a lot of people on to the Sig 6Ks, and I haven't met a single person who sold them yet. That's
There you
just
go.
yeah. Um,
Lasers.
yep.
And then, like, it's funny too because Zeiss just sent over, and I did that quick video with the straight up binoculars, but their new HDX binoculars have a reticle in it, and they put a reticle sort of centered up, and they're actually not bad spotting binos if you just want it to be behind the line and spot, and especially if people will cry because you're using a laser behind the line. Or if you
Mm-hmm.
can get away with it, you could almost do it with those Zeisses because everybody has lasers on their rifles now too.
Yeah.
Whether the Vortex, the Mars, whoever's the Magpul one's kind of hitting the street now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there's even a stealth Sig one running around, isn't there? Doesn't sit that
Dude, I
they
mean,
don't
that's the word on the street. I don't know for a fact that that's the case.
they said it was at I didn't see it. Somebody said it was at SHOT Show in like a back corner and they weren't even talking about it, but it was there.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah,
I,
exactly,
I don't
exactly.
know. Um,
Because we kept going by SIG to go to Mile High, and people were like, "Oh, there's one in the corner," and I just never popped into the SIG booth to look at it.
mhm,
But, that Magpul Maztec one is probably gonna be pretty good for price-wise for people for weapons mounted, as well. But, yeah, I mean, it's like we're so electronics heavy right now, and then
there
when
we go. Now
it
you can
was
see the
funny.
comments. I just realized that my comments were set on black letters and against the background. You couldn't even read them.
Oh, on mine, I could read them because I switched to dark and light, and,
Oh, there we go.
yeah, yeah, but
Yeah,
no,
no,
so
I totally agree with you. Yeah, I totally agree
yeah,
with you.
and it's just weird, you know what I mean? It's like we hit that spot where sort of everything's in the same place at the same time again, and it's like everybody's got a little bit of overload, and it needs to sort of work its way out of the system because of, you know, so
Frank, I needed you to talk longer.
Oh, you need me? Oh, you're chewing. Sorry, man. I didn't know. But yeah, I did. If you look on Sniper's Hide and on the YouTube channel, I did do the video of the Zeiss HDX binos for some. And they, like I said, they do have a reticle in them. They're 15 to 56 binos. They're Zeiss quality binos, so they're birder quality as far as like looking at things. They're It's noticeable, like Chris is saying, when we go to our electronic binos and the laser rangefinders, and especially with a little bit of blue in them, to a pair of, like, again, straight binos that aren't meant to have electronics, you can see the difference again. And it's like, man, we got so far away from this bird quality of binos that, because we're doing electronics and they need to make the HUD stand out. And so that's where the coating kind of goes on top of the LED so you can see the HUD,
Yeah,
and that degrades our look a little bit, and
absolutely.
yeah, and granted, we're looking for plates, and so they figure we're not looking to color and ID a bird,
Mhm.
but it's amazing when we grab a pair of like real binos versus our lasers. It's like, oh wow, these are like good.
That was the thing when we did the eval before. Um, in my eval and I was doing my roll up, I told everybody uh, the best performing binos that were out there were the SIGs, and it was kind of interesting because the pair of 3Ks and the pair of 10Ks we had out there performed very similarly. The 10Ks did outperform the 3Ks, but the 3Ks actually performed really good. That was back when you could get 3Ks. They replaced them with the sixes, and now they're on the Gen 2 of 10s and sixes.
Mhm.
Um, but I had to knock the 10Ks because even though their laser rangefinder is amazing, especially at the price point that it comes in at, the glass was so bad. And now everybody wanted to just talk shit about the glass in the SIGs, and I didn't think it was as bad as everybody made it out to be. But the thing about it was, I said this was you can't range what you can't see. And
Yeah.
we definitely found scenarios where there was things that you just could not see. And that was the thing about like your higher end laser rangefinders, like the Leicas, and probably your Swaras, which I never really had, is you could see everything. And so
Yeah.
there was a time it was like 500 or 550 or something like that where we had a it was like a white target, and it was mixed into some other kind of grayish shot up metal. It was just at the sniper comp out there in Arkansas, the National Guard sniper comp. They put it inside like this Hulk kind of like frame of a vehicle or whatever, and um, because they wanted it to be partially hidden, it was actually fully viewable, but it was set against this stuff. And it was kind of overcast. And so, like, when the sun would come out, man, it would just boom, it'd light right up. But when the clouds would come by, it would just disappear. And if you had any of the nicer binos, you could see it all the time, always. But when you had the SIGs and when you had the vortexes, you couldn't. You couldn't see it at all. And it was like, yeah, I mean, you could range that thing. You could always range it, but if you couldn't see it, you couldn't range it. And
Yeah.
that's huge. That's
That
huge.
happened with me with a pair of Vortex Gen 2 or Gen 1 razors, or Gen 2 razor. The 4 to whatever. 3 I was using the 3 to 18 at the time. In Colville, we had hidden targets in a few stages
Hmm.
that were in the woods, and I was having a tough time with one of them, and the guys are like, "It's right there by the purple flower." And I'm like, "Man, I really don't see it." Well, my scope had screwed up and it kept going like a half mil to the right. And every morning I would go really early and re-zero it. And then like 3 stages in, I would have to like windage it. But every morning, because I went and re-zeroed it, I was short ammo for the last stage.
Mm.
So Pete Howell from SIG at the time, I don't think Pete works for SIG still, but he does the S2 or S3 granite matches in like Montana.
I don't know.
So Pete worked for SIG. I borrowed his AI that had a SIG scope on it, and when I went and did the last stage, what happened to be a hidden stage, the target popped.
Yeah.
And it's funny when one pops and one doesn't, because everything else almost looks normal. You're
Hmm.
like, "I don't see why this doesn't see it." And then
Yeah.
when you switch, you're like, "Oh, wow." And that blows my mind sometimes, that everything looks fine,
Yeah.
but you don't see it. And it's weird. But it's exactly how you describe, where it's like it's right there, and as soon as this changes a millimeter, it's gone, but then as soon as it comes back, it's there again. And so stuff like that with tricky light conditions, it's interesting where these optics fall and where some of these companies felt this was good enough.
Yeah.
You
Totally.
know?
Hmm.
It's just like, "Ah, that's good enough. You'll be fine."
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, because honestly, that's like an AB mindset with the 3 DOF.
Hmm.
Like, it was always the argument, there's 3 degree of freedom, 4 degree of freedom, 6 degree of freedom. There's, point mass, modified point mass, and all these different things, and people will go like, "Well, we know these other ones are better." And the answer was always, "Well, this is good enough for what you're doing." And so there's a lot of that mindset that runs around, "Well, this is good enough for what you're doing."
Yeah.
No, I hate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into. Like I said,
Our topic.
I have a little topic. Wanted to cover. And where did my little split screen go?
Up at the top, maybe.
I don't know. This has been weird this whole time. There we go. We got
There
Frank.
you
Okay. So I've got a little something I wanted to cover because I see this at a lot of our classes. We see this in positional shooting, but we also see this in prone shooting. So I wanted to cover it a little bit. Like I said, this is something that I do cover in our online course. So if you guys sign up for that course, you'll see it. But I figured let's go ahead and cover it here. That way we can get Frank's feedback also. And because, who knows? He may have a little bit different opinion on some of these things than I do. I don't think so because I'm smarter than him. But
go.
no,
Mhm.
just kidding. He's been in this game a lot longer than I do. I've learned a ton from him. So I want to see what his opinions on some of these things are and, bring something to you guys that maybe can help you out down the road. So, what I got here is the CR2. I hope everybody can see this. The CR2 zero target. Frank, we're on the first page if you need to bring it up. And
Okay.
with this target, it might look a little cluttered or it might look a little complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. It's just a standard kind of zero target. In the center there, you've got a 1.5 MOA square, and in the corners, you have 1 MOA squares. We did actually measure those out. They do measure out to actually 1 MOA, 1.5 MOA, not 1 inch. So, so on and so forth. But that's neither here nor there. In your little squares in the center are half MOAs, but it doesn't really matter for this. Just wanted to bring you guys into understanding what you see here over the target. So when we get to our group and zero portion of our courses, we usually have our students start on the center mass of the target because obviously, why have you shoot for a corner, especially when you're zeroing? And what we'll tell our students is initially we want you to shoot 5 rounds, and we're going to have you shoot 5 rounds. We're going to go down, we're going to see your target, and we're going to have you mark those 5 rounds. We're going to have you shoot a nice tight group, take your time, start off with dry fires first, go into your live, don't break your cheek position, any of that kind of stuff when you transition from live to fire or from blank to
Try it
live.
live. Yeah.
And, you know, give us the best 5 shots you can give. We'll go down, we'll mark them, and then we'll come back and you'll shoot another 5. Reason we have you do that without changing anything is because until you've shot 2 consecutive groups in the same exact location, we can't make an adjustment. Now, that being said, of course, if you're way off the paper, we might make a bold adjustment just to bring you on paper. But ultimately, we don't know what's going on with you or with your groups until you give us 10 shots or 2 groups in the same location. And we want to see you group, basically within the capability of a weapon system. Now, everybody's going to say, well, that's one MOA or better. I have a half MOA group. I'm a half MOA shooter. I'm a whatever. Okay. Within the capability of your weapon system, we'll just say for this example, it's one MOA. All right. So if you're at one MOA or smaller, and that's all those little squares, as you guys see up there, all the white squares, the grid is all one MOA. If you're in that area, then we're going to say that's good, and we're going to ask you to shoot another group. Don't change your point of impact or point of aim, even if your point of impact is up and to the side. Still aiming at the center. Give us another 5 rounds with the intent that your next 5 rounds is going to land in that same spot up there, and in this case, up and to the right. Okay? If a group looked like that and you give us a second group in the same location, I'm a happy camper. What says you, Frank?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. We want to see consistency and doing the same thing every time.
Okay, great. So, like I said, in this example, if you give us 2 groups, up into, oh my God, I have my puppy here, and he just ripped ass. I'm sorry, guys. It's freaking terrible. I'm talking with my mouth open, and I just got it all. He's a pit bull and Doberman mix, and so you can only imagine what that's like. Anyways, and he's laying at my feet, so I just got all of it.
Funny.
That's distracting. So, yes, sorry. So, but what we see a lot of times is guys will shoot their second group or they'll shoot their first group. And what we see is something like this. Okay. So, when we see a group that's big and it's large, is open, it's more than one MOA. All right. Typically speaking, especially if you were shooting positional, but even if you were shooting in the prone, if we see a group that's large like this, bigger than one MOA, and we've determined that this is outside of the capability of your weapon system, then you probably have a combination of errors or a stability issue. So we're going to look at your bag placement. We're going to look at how you're manipulating your rear bag. One of the things that I know Frank and Mark teach, it's something that I have carried forward in my courses, is bringing that rear bag and pinching the butt stock. Making bunny ears, kind of saddling the butt stock with the rear bag. We're going to look at if you have proper height in your position, because a lot of people will try to get too low to the ground, trying to get that whole sniper effect hiding in the grass, which is completely unnecessary. They're not in a comfortable position, but you're probably unstable. So, and that's causing you to shoot large groups overall. What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah, definitely a movement for that. And where we see absolutely what Chris is saying is basically the shooter's nose back is probably where something's going on, unless their bipod is crazy loose and every shot is moving and flopping a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be like a bipod tightening issue. But we see a lot of these problems, like Chris is saying, in the stability issue would be from sort of like the front of your nose back to your shoulders, where the rear bag is. A rear bag is a huge culprit that it'll hinge or it will move. And even a game changer, if you're not in the right place, the sand can displace from under you, and then
Mm-hmm.
that'll shift. Like Chris has done a video where he moved a game changer basically around a circle shooting groups, and you'll see the group open up and change as he moves the game changer around the block. So there's like a good place to put it and a bad place to put it. So all those come into play, like Chris says.
And you're talking about Chris Way, not me.
Yeah, way with the game changer, but yes,
Yeah.
but the hinges in that for sure. But yes, what Chris is saying, a stability problem. And the bag moving would be a stability problem. The bipod moving would be a stability problem. You moving or pushing the rifle over, flinch, anything like that would be a stability problem.
Yeah. And a key thing here, guys, and this is really why dry fires are huge before you ever shoot a live round. And I tell students this all the time. Hey, dry fire is free. For one, you're not wasting, you're not sending good rounds after bad. And one of the things that I took from Frank and Mark, I'll let them know I stole it from them, is you get on the gun, you have your magazine right where you can reach it without having to break contact with the rifle, and you're going through those dry fires. Especially with a bolt action rifle, this is really really easy to do. It's a little harder with a semi-auto, especially since a lot of guys when they go to charge that semi-auto, they want to break off the rifle, but especially with bolt action gun. So, you're going through your dry fires and then you run that bolt forward. Don't pull a trigger. Okay. Run that bolt forward, put the magazine in. All right. Make sure it's fully seated. And then you have one more dry fire before you cycle in around. Okay.
Yeah.
That will allow you to get as many dry fires as you've gone through. All right. Without breaking contact. And so when you take that last dry fire shot and then you run the bolt, you cycle it in, you've now just connected your dry fire directly into your live fire. The nice thing about dry fire is it gives you the ability to settle into your position, because a lot of times what happens is there is somewhat of a transition between that first shot and the second shot. And
Mhm.
we'll see that a lot of times where there's a gap between the first shot and the second shot because the shooter is settling into position. Now, that's not something that should happen. You should be able to build a stable position right off the bat. But more often than not, people don't, especially novice shooters. And so their position will change. And if you were to have dry fired and legitimately dry fired and really built a stable position, then you would be able to just transition and there would be no difference. And you would have worked all those flaws out of your system before you ever sent a live round.
Right. And Mark calls it smooth transition between dry and live. So what he'll call on the line is he's looking for that smooth transition. And the way I verbalize dry fire with guys like that, with what Chris is saying, is it's getting into your rhythm. It's getting sort of like there's a fidget, right? So people will shoot 2 rounds, they'll fidget and move into a better position. They'll shoot 2 more, they might fidget 1 more, and then they shoot their last one. Or, maybe it's 2 rounds fidget, the last 3 are good, and you might have a movement in a group where it's a 2 and a 3, but it's establishing your rhythm. So as Chris says, there's not a big difference between shot 1, 2, and 3 as far as time goes, and that the process is the same between 1, 2, and 3. So dry fire, you get your rhythm down, then that mag goes in, dry fire, and then a smooth transition to live, and then you should be in your rhythm.
Absolutely.
Oh,
All right. So moving to the next one. So this is kind of the next error that we'll see a lot of times. Um, so this right here, everybody, especially most instructors, will immediately attribute this to trigger press. All right, they'll immediately attribute this to trigger press, and um, while yes, I will say that that is trigger press. Um, there is potential errors in your position that are allowing your trigger press to affect your grouping this like this. Okay. Because the truth of the matter is, and Frank demonstrates this in his class, and if depending on the range that I'm at, I'll demonstrate this in my class. But if you were to put your rifle in a vise, you could smack your trigger with a hammer and it won't move. I teach the shot process. Frank teaches the fundamentals. Somebody else might teach something else. But with the shot process, what we tell students is there's really 2 true fundamentals. You have to properly aim your rifle and fire it without disturbing it. All right. Those are the 2 things that you truly have to do. My thought process behind shooting, or the shot process that I teach, is how do you get to that point? So how do I properly aim it, and then how do I fire it without disturbing it? Everything else from there is really an adaptable process. That's the whole thought process behind the shot process. It's an adaptable system or adaptable process. So trigger press may be causing this. Okay, trigger press may be causing a lateral stringing, but depending on the situation you find yourself, if I'm shooting in the prone, okay, great. I'm shooting the prone, everything should be stable anyways. So if I'm lateral stringing, then fix my trigger press. But let's just say, hypothetically speaking, I'm shooting off a tripod and I only have that front support of a tripod. I can't bring in a rear support. So now stability is compromised. I have to focus on trigger press. But let's just say I ran up to my position. I've got to take a very fast shot. My trigger press is my trigger press. It's only ever going to be what it is, and it has to happen quickly. I can't focus on trigger press. So now I have to focus on stability, natural point of aim. I have to focus on those other things because I can't focus on trigger press because I have to take a shot and I have to do it rapidly. We saw that at Major Land. I ran down a hill. I had to freaking set up a rifle and I had to take a shot very rapidly. Trigger press was the last thing in my shot press that I was giving any amount of priority to. So while trigger press may be causing lateral stringing, you have to look at your process and determine, is that what is going to be the crux of my issue? So I will say, yes, this is a trigger press issue. If I'm not going to shoot in the prone, if I'm going to shoot off of an unstable position, I'm going to shoot off of, if I'm going to shoot very rapidly, trigger press may not be the problem. It may be a stability issue.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah, you
thought.
can that could be part of your wobble zone in there if you're gonna eliminate the trigger press. And then, like I said, with the fundamentals and what we do is we do the trading and indexing. So if we're compromising a fundamental, we'll trade off that fundamental for something that will make a little better. And that absolutely, like I said, could be in there. So I see that too. And then it's vertical.
Yep. Yeah, we'll get to vertical in 1 second. Now, that being said, we want to straight to the rear trigger press to avoid these situations. Um, Straight to the rear. One
And
thing
that
I
could be
see,
a recoil thing too, where they're moving like and they're not resetting because they're being thrown around by recoil, and they're sort of like their MPA is fucked up because
yeah.
recoil's doing that to them.
hmm Well, and what I see a lot of times too is, especially with our gas gunners are really, really bad with this. Is they have a poor grip. They
Mhm.
have a poor grip, so since they're compromising their grip, what they'll end up doing is they'll have this really loose grip and they'll usually bring that thumb over or something like that because they're trying to maximize or minimize trigger influence. And what they'll do is, since they're minimizing their grip, bringing their thumb over, what they'll end up doing is pulling the trigger. And that's
Yeah.
specifically why I
It and the
shifted
right, and
it
the
over to the side.
gassers too, and you've seen it, if a gasser loads the bipod to one side and not the other uneven, the handguard can yank it and it'll string
hmm
if they're off on their bipod load.
Yep. Yep. All right, moving to the next one. Uh, Vertical. So vertical stringing. So once again, this is one of those ones where naturally we'd want to say vertical stringing is going to be. Did the podcast stop on?
No, I'm still maybe. Yeah, because only one person now. It was good for a second, and then all of a sudden it dropped. Like the people count dropped.
Yeah, I think it might have stopped
The hour.
on the hour.
Oh shoot! Yeah, it may have.
Well, we'll just tell people that they have to watch it somewhere else. Is it still going on YouTube?
It might. It might be on the hide still. Hang on,
We're
let me
still on
see.
YouTube. So Facebook cut us off at an hour.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so if we're still on the hide,
No,
uh,
no, we're still good on Facebook. It looks like. Maybe
oh,
not.
okay.
Yeah, we're still good on Facebook. It's weird because on the one spot it looks like it cut off. Maybe it's just on the profile. You actually have to click into the profile on the other thing. Anyways, we'll continue. So
Yeah, yeah. I don't like I said, I don't know. That's funny.
so vertical stringing. So vertical stringing, we would have naturally called this breathing. Okay, so breathing is vertical stringing. And while I do agree that a lot of times that's caused by vertical stringing, um, I would or that would cause vertical stringing. We also need to look at uh, a sight alignment issue. So
Yeah,
a lot of times with cheek pressure changes, we'll get a vertical stringing. Okay, so I would actually address this as a sight alignment issue, and I would start looking at okay, are you looking through your sight in different spots? And are if your breathing's changing, if your cheek pressure's changing, you know, those different things can cause you to look through your sights at different spots. And there's different reasons why this could happen. Did you just run up and get into this position because you're shooting a match and you're shooting positional? Are you shooting positional and so you're changing off the tripod, so you're not putting as much pressure into your buttstock, because now when you put that pressure into your buttstock, you point your muzzle to the sky. You know, are things like that affecting your position? Because typically speaking, when we zero a rifle, we'll do it in the prone. We'll put a lot of pressure on our buttstock. That's not an issue. But as soon as we get out of the prone and we get into those other positions, we start to alter our shot process. Right?
Right. Oh, sorry. Chris was texting me something, a question on the high. Yes, and I was gonna say with that too, because you're going a bad position, either pulling the rifle back will raise the rounds up, or shouldering in will push the rounds down, causing a vertical stringing. And whether or not they're below the target center or above the target center would depend. Like, so what you'll see is people aren't necessarily connected to the rifle, their shoulder, very well. And when they pull the trigger, they pull hard, and the rifle will come into their shoulder. They'll go a little high, or they shoulder like a flinch and they'll jam their shoulder into it and they'll drive it low. So it's a recoil management problem as well with a vertical. It can be breathing, it can be a host of things. And then, like Chris was saying, the aiming part with a vertical string, that's where we see the canting in the bipod, because they're kind of pulling it over, and sometimes they kind of go up on an arc.
Yeah.
So it's like a candy cane or something, but it'll be strung in a way. So if you're pulling the bolt to the right and you're pushing your head to the right, you'll create a
Yep.
cant issue. So
Yep.
there's like four different things that could do vertical, and for sure.
Great. All right. So after you fire that second group, a lot of times we'll see this kind of happen. So you will tell you, hey, fire your second group. And so you'll have a shift in your groups. Your point of aim did not change, but your groups changed. So when I see this, what I typically will have seen is you've changed something between group one and group two. Okay. And typically speaking, it's a sight alignment issue or a natural point of aim issue. You've changed your body position behind the rifle. You're applying different pressure on the buttstock. You've cocked your position behind the rifle and you no longer have natural point of aim. There's something that's causing your sight alignment to change, which is causing your group position or point of impact to change.
Correct. Let me get to that piece. Hang on. I was just texting Chris. Uh, you see what picture you're looking at? Hang on.
Yep, we're on number 5,
Oh,
page
okay.
5.
So the good group that moved or something?
Yeah, yeah, it's two good groups, but they're in two different places.
Yeah, a fidget or something. And this is a good point. With this slide is excellent to talk about. And it's a Markism. Mark talks about an event versus a process, where people will generally look at their zeroing as a single event. I'm going to go zero my rifle. And in some cases, as we are demonstrating, it may be a process. We don't shoot one group, adjust, and call it good. We shoot multiple groups, and we're kind of working that in. And you may see a shift like that. And it could be a fidget. It 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 could be something to that case. But yeah, that's kind of one of those weird things. And MPA will do that.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, for sure. Mostly what we see with people, if they're a new shooter, is they fidget. They adjust their MPA because they're
right.
more comfortable this way than that way.
Right. Yeah. And then and typically speaking, they're new to this, so that isn't natural for them. What made them achieve that first good group isn't isn't consistent. It's not something they can consistently achieve every time, and so they can't necessarily do that a second time. So then this is where, rather than make an adjustment, all right. So guys, these shooters, rather than make an adjustment, I'm going to tell you, shoot another group. Don't change
Right.
anything. Shoot another group because I want to see which one of those groups is your actual
Is
point
the
of
right one.
impact.
Again, the process. Got follow
Right.
the process and don't focus on the event.
Right. Because
Mhm.
now, if you give me another group and it lands in the same spot as one of these two, then maybe that gives me something I can adjust off of rather than I'm chasing groups all over the paper. So let me move on to my next one. So now we're on page 6. So, like I said, you give me two groups, they're stacked on top of each other. It's going to look something like this. We're going to go ahead, we're going to tell you to go ahead and make an adjustment. Now, you're going to make an adjustment moving the center of your point of impact to what was always your point of aim. Okay. Um, some people do this a little bit differently. Unless I'm moving you like a whole page or something like that, I'm gonna just have you move all the way there. Now, granted, if it's just an enormous amount, maybe we'll just move you all vertical, and then later on we'll move you all horizontal, something like that. That's going to be up to you, obviously, whoever the instructor is going to be at that time. But in a case like this, where it's just a couple inches, we're going to use your reticle because it's a ruler and it's right there in front of your face. We're going to measure what's going on and we're going to make your adjustments from there. Now, something that people commonly get confused on is they'll go, well, I need to move my group left, so I'm turning my adjustments right. No, your adjustment direction, that actually means you're moving your group right. So if you need to move right, then go the way the knob tells you is right. All right. So it's telling you what to do, and that's actually telling you which way your groups are going to move, not which way your rifle barrel is pointed or any kind of nonsense like that. All right. And
Good. Yeah,
then,
no. Right.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you were good. All that was good.
All right. So then the next one, that's what we're trying to achieve. After we've made your adjustment, we're going to have you shoot a confirmation. All right, your confirmation should be something similar to that. You're going to drop those rounds into the center of the target. And then the last thing for my classes is I'm going to tell you to fill in your boxes. All right. And the reason I have you fill in your boxes is because even though you've done everything correct up until this point, things happen. All right.
Mhm.
You still need practice at this point in time. We're still not satisfied with your ability, especially if you're a new shooter. So I'm going to have you fill in the rest of the boxes because I want to see the consistency. Okay. Additionally, those other boxes are smaller boxes. So now you get to work on the aim small, miss small mentality of refining your shot process.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we're in the same zone with all that. We do the same thing with everybody and bring them into that good zero because we need that foundation for everyone to be in the same place to move forward and to make sure the groups are good like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean there's no drama. The only thing I will say is I've been doing a lot of this off of tripods now. I'm not doing it as much prone, and my tripod shooting has gotten as tight as my prone shooting
Yeah.
because I'm practicing that as much.
Yeah, and that's actually a conversation I have with a lot of students. We just had it 2 weekends ago when we were out there, and I was telling students like, we always set our rifles up in the prone, but then the majority of us don't actually shoot commonly in the prone. Like we will when
Mhm.
we go to the range, but then when we go hunting, when we go shoot competitions, when we go do all those other things, we're not actually shooting in the prone. So it's kind of counterintuitive because if your real life shooting is not prone shooting, then why do you spend all your time practicing in the prone? And then to your point, my question is why do you zero in the prone? Because what you'll find a lot of times is your rifle setup needs to change, and even you might have a slight difference in your zero. Now, a
A lot of
zeroed
10.
rifle
There
should
could
be
be
a
a 10
zeroed rifle.
between them. Yeah.
Yeah. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And I know for me, I'm a bigger guy. You guys can look at my side profile. When I'm in the prone, my buttstock sits more up here. My buttstock sits more up here. Okay. And then when I go to a standing position, my buttstock is a little bit more in this area. So you can see the difference between where my buttstock's going to be with my rifle sticking out this way and where my buttstock's going to be when my rifle's sticking out this way. So my length of pull is clearly going to be different if I set my rifle up in the prone than when I set my rifle up in a standing position.
Right.
Clearly.
We're kind of an averaged compromise in some ways. And so the, question would be, well, what's your average? And you should compromise in that direction versus, we do, like Chris said, we do prone and then we go to positional. Well, it should be positional is the average. And that's where everything should be focused on, that positional, because there are shifts, a prone to a standing, a tenth or two with some people set up. So
Yeah.
I have, especially for like a craft drill, if I want to do an impressive craft drill for somebody, I'll nudge my 0.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I
To bring
mean?
it all
I'll
in
nudge
center.
it. Yes. And so I'll nudge my 0 and then do the craft drill so that it's balanced for all those positions and it's not prone when I'm going to do 3
Yep.
positionals. It's
Oh yeah.
positional with 1 prone,
Yep. Because my
so
positional shooting I favor up and to the right.
right,
It just
right.
from
So
the difference between prone and positional for me is up and to the right, like a tenth. But that's just it is what it is.
it's there though, and if you're going to do it on paper, you could see it.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time too. I was like, hey, I was like, you want to zero your rifle, but you want to be stable, but you're not going to shoot in the prone. Throw your rifle up on a bench, stand behind it. You got stability like you're in the prone because you're still on a tripod or you're still on a bipod in a rear bag, but now your body is vertical and you're in that position that's more similar to when you're shooting positional. You can set your rifle up in more towards the way that you're going to be when you're shooting positional, but you've still got stability because I can get all the same stability off that bench as I could if I was in the prone. Do it that way. It makes more sense and that's what we've been doing, especially and then when you get a lot of older students too. They can't shoot in the prone all day long.
Right.
I mean, their necks just don't pronate like that anymore. Their backs start to hurt when they spend all day in the prone. So I put them on a bench. I don't want them sitting behind a bench because we see that all the time. You guys sit behind benches and then next thing you know, you're sitting to the side. Your natural point of aim's compromised. Most of those benches, the seat on the bench is too low. You need to bring them up higher so they can actually get a more natural position and they're not trying to stretch up to it. But there's things you can do to get in a more favorable position and doesn't have to be the prone.
Right. And if
So,
we get guys with the hunting, like up in Alaska, they'll have a hunting rifle with a hunting scope. And in typical hunting style setup, the scope is insanely low on the rings.
yeah,
Really low. They can't get prone and get behind it. So if we put them on a bench, it stands them up a little bit and they can at least work with that rifle in a supported way when they initially set it up to just take an offhand shot.
yeah,
But you want them to 0, you want them to work with it and that. So standing someone up on a bench helps with their head, just like Chris says, and they don't roll their neck over, their head and neck over. They don't do that because a lot of hunting setups will be very low and
yes,
prone just won't work for them.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
No, that's
absolutely.
great. Cool. Well, I'm glad we could go over that and get some pointers from you, even some different ones than the way I look at things, because I think that's really good for the shooters. Guys, if you do sign up for our online course, I cover that in the online course, and you will get sterile versions of those targets that you can print off, and they're free. Well, they're not free because you've paid for the course, but they're for you. You can print off as many of them as you'd like, take them to the range, and then in that course, there's step-by-step procedures on how to zero your rifle, and then even that stuff in there so you can see, hey, if I run into this error, these are the things to look out for and to be able to improve on. You'll be able to take that on your phone with you to the range, and like I said, be able to just set that up next to your rifle and be able to walk yourself through those steps. It's I think it's a really cool asset for you. That's at CR2ss.com. I think that course is $50. And then it's evergreen. It's yours, and from then on, as long as my website is online, it'll be yours. So as long as you guys keep paying me, I'll be able to keep my lights on. So
There you go. There you go.
so
Oh, that's
well, cool. Yeah, Frank said it
yeah.
earlier. We had a light fighter course coming up at the end of next week, and then we're kind of taking a hiatus for the summer because it just gets too damn hot here in Georgia. And I think we'll have some more courses posted kind of towards fall time frame. Look for more courses to pop up on the website. What do you got going on, Frank?
Um, the high TV stuff is going forward. Courses are being added by other people, not just me. Chris's courses are almost ready to go. He's doing it right now in a way. He's texting me. Jake Vibber added his competition courses to high TV, and he's got that rifle barrel stuff he's doing. Then the high TV, the content creator network, we got guys adding content every week in a variety of places.
Yeah.
So come on by High TV, check it out. Mobile friendly, phone friendly, all that stuff. And yeah, we're just out and about doing our thing. I'll be in Iowa in June, first week of June in Iowa. Then July I'll be in Alaska, course wise, and that's where we're going. So same
Oh yeah,
stuff.
wanted to point out. So we are still on the hide. All of our free content is still going to be on there. All of our long form videos, stuff like that. We're still sharing them over there. So any of you guys looking for us on there, we are still on there. We are still reachable.
Yeah, and
And
the
actually,
funny thing, the high
go ahead.
TV, I get the same views as I do on my Rumble account now. So the high
Mhm.
TV is actually growing to the same point as the Rumble, like my Rumble page. So we're seeing growth, we're seeing improvement with all that. So definitely check out the content.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's probably
That's it.
about it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Hey, did you see Loophole? I know they announced it in January, and they've been talking about it for 2 freaking years. But the new reticle finally is making it to the shelves
Oh no, I hadn't noticed it.
in the 2 to 10. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I think
yeah.
I just posted a picture of that. Let's
And I'll
see.
check that out because I was all talking about that yesterday, like with the LVPOs and stuff on the hunting side and the 2 to 10s, and those are like such a
Mhm.
great range for some
Yep.
of like the 6 arc stuff in the gas gun, the hunting stuff, and so we're kind of looking at those LVPOs again to play around with some of the projects we're working on, like especially the 6 arc project I'm getting ready to play with the gas gun side of that work.
Yeah, give me a half a second. I'll put it up here because it was not on my desktop. So I'm pulling it up right now. There we go.
Mm, yeah.
Open. Boom. You see that? Oh, you can't see it.
I can't. Yeah, you have to put me on to broadcast later, but we'll do that after. But yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Well, yeah, everybody else can see it. That's the new reticle for Loophole. It's up there. It's available in the 2 to 10. Yeah, why can't I don't know how to do that, Frank. We'll figure it out for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll show you. There's a button. It says it basically. You just have to tell the interviewee, me, that I could see your broadcast, and there's a
Oh,
checkbox for it.
okay. Well, I'm sorry. Well, everybody else is seeing
No, you're
this right
good.
now.
You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways,
No, I'm good.
I finally got one of these in because I've even been asking them like, hey, when do I get this new reticle? So I finally got one in one of the 2 to 10s, and dude, it's pretty cool. I'm still getting used to it. That it's got the donut, it's got the Christmas tree reticle. But unlike a lot of the Christmas tree reticles in the two like LVPOs or LPVOs, however you say it. It's a mill. It's mill radians. So it's kind of like a traditional mill radian reticle
Mhm.
that you would find in a higher power scope, but then it's got the donut at the top and it's in an LPVO. So rather
Awesome.
than do
Yeah.
a BDC, they went for a mill, and I think it was pretty cool. So I'm getting used to it. I think it's pretty cool. I love the 2 to 10. At first, I was kind of like, why did you go 2 to 10, not a 1 to whatever? And then when they kind of explained it to me, I was like, okay, that actually makes a ton of sense. And when you look through the 2 to 10, then you realize like, okay, this is the best 10 power of the LPVOs on the market
Yeah, to
as
get
far
it
as like
right, to get the
optical
balance
clarity.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I had a guy argue with me, trying to argue with me yesterday. It was funny too, because I even want to argue with him. He was like, the ATACR is better. And I was like, I think the ATACR is the best LPVO. Agreed. It's the best LPVO. And he was like, yeah, so the loophole's stupid and you shouldn't own it basically. And
Whatever, dude.
I was like, okay, well, the ATACR is also $1,000 more. So like, I mean, it's a hard sell for a lot of people. You know, like I think the ATACR is a great scope, but it's $1,000 more. So like from that standpoint, it makes a lot of sense for people just to buy the loophole. And I think from that standpoint, the loophole is the best 10 power and the ATACR is not a 10 power. And he's like, yeah, but the loophole's 3 ounces heavier. And I was like, 3 ounces, dude. I was like, you're willing to spend
Tell him to pull
$1,000 more for 3
tell him
ounces?
tell him to
Like
pull a
it,
screw out of pull one screw out of, his caps, ring caps.
yeah, I was like, dude, we're talking about, I think it was like 26 ounces versus 23 ounces. And I was like, dude, and with the loophole, do you get a parallax adjustment?
Mhm.
You don't get a parallax adjustment in any other LPVO. And he was like, well, parallax adjustments in LPVOs is stupid. I was like, well, then you've never shot a 10 power LPVO. Because if you have, then you'll know a parallax adjustment is not stupid. Because there is not a 10 power out there that doesn't have a parallax that doesn't look like dog shit either. You know? And so then he just kept going and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, you just be happy with what you have and shoot it then. And I was like, I will be happy with what I have. And I was like, just remember, you showed up in my feed. I didn't show up in your feed.
It's weird, like, the people don't understand, like, the variety of people in the big picture out there.
Yeah.
And that's kinda what I was saying with, some of the comp sports is they don't understand their audience, they don't understand who's out there that may wanna do this, and they have a warped sense of the shooter in America,
Yeah.
and they don't understand the dollars, and so it's very strange to me, like you're saying, $1,000 is significant. That's a whole nother 'nother optic.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's significant. And in today's world, people are looking at that.
Mm-hmm.
Belts are
Mm-hmm.
tight right now.
Right?
Yeah. And
Like,
so
dude, I would love to have your $1,000.
yes, exactly. So I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. He was like, well, once you add illumination and this and that and another thing, it only ends up being this much more. And I was like, okay,
Mhm.
but it's still like, that's a lot of money. You're still talking
Right.
hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah.
yeah, people these
Cool, man.
days, what are you going to do? Right?
Alrighty. Sounds good. So it was awesome little talk, man. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to the next one. We will
Mhm.
chat soon. All right, guys.
Alrighty.
Appreciate you tuning in. As always, subscribe, click on all the things, like them, follow me, follow Frank, get on the hide. If you don't, get on there, pay him your subscription fees because that's how he keeps his lights on. Go to CR2SS.com, head on over to CR2 Supply, get you some ammo, get you some accessories, whatever it is you need. We got it. We love you. We'll talk to you later.
Later.
Cool, man.